Hello students, in this video we're going to solve the problem sums from the June holiday assignment. Part A will be doing introductions to algebra. Right, let's look at question 1. In question 1 we asked to simplify each of the following: 4x times 2x times 3y. In terms of algebra manipulations, I think 4x is taken as one unit on its own. So therefore, we're going to introduce brackets to these expressions by grouping 4x as one unit, 2x as another, 3y as another unit. However, having said so, bracket means times. So I can actually remove the brackets by saying this is equivalent to 4 times x times 2 times x times 3 times y. And then I can group all the numbers together and then the variables together. So that gives me 24x squared y, because x times x give you x squared. Let's look at part B. Right, so for part B, we'll group 2r, introduce bracket to 2r, take it as one term, 3s as another term, 5t as one term. Right, so 2r times 3s will just give you 6rs. And divide by, that's the reason why I need to bracket this one, okay, because if you don't bracket it, then your answer will not be the same as what I've shown you. All right, question 2 is a questions of substitution. Right, so to do these questions correctly, first of all, you need to be mindful. uv squared is not the same as bracket uv to the power of 2. All right, because uv squared, it's actually u bracket bracket v, or u times v, or u times bracket v to the power of 2. However, this one is uv multiplied with another uv, right? So you have to be careful. Right, so uv squared, as what I've shown you here, is equals to bracket u bracket v to the power of 2. So we're going to substitute in for u to be -2 and v to be -9, and you will get -162. Let's look at the next questions. You're given that p is an even number. Find and simplify an expression in terms of p for the sum of the next two odd numbers. Right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to let p to be a numerical value. And since p is an even number, I'm going to let it to be number 4. So if p is 4, then the next two odd numbers will be 5 and 7, right? Because what are odd numbers? Odd numbers are 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, so on and so forth. And where do I get 5? To get 5, that is when I take 4 plus 1, right? So 5, it's when it is 4 plus 1. And 7, it's when 4 plus 3. Right, so if I'm going to go back to just using p, then the first odd number will be p plus 1. And the second odd number will be p plus 3. So to add p plus 1 with p plus 3, we will get 2p plus 4. Let's look at the next question. The next question is a problem sum. We have this person, Mr. Lai, and he is 4 times as old as his daughter currently, and 5 years ago, he was 7 times as old as her. Right. So Mr. Lai's daughter is x years old now, and we asked to express in terms of x, Mr. Lai's present age. Right, so to solve the problem sums, the best is to break it down into simpler terms. So we have two characters here, Mr. Lai and the daughter. Right, and we are talking about two different timing, currently and 5 years ago. So let's look at the age currently. So currently, the daughter's age is x years old, as given in the question. And also given in the question that currently he is 4 times as old as the daughter. So if the daughter is x years old, then Mr. Lai's age will be 4x. 5 years ago, think of it this way. If currently you are 20 years old, so 5 years old means 20 minus 5, right? So 5 years old, you are actually 15 years old. Right, so we're going to find the age for both of them 5 years ago. So the daughter's age will be x minus 5 and Mr. Lai's age will be 4x minus 5. All right, so in part A, Mr. Lai's present age is 4x years old. And in part B, we're asked to find Mr. Lai's age 5 years ago. So the catch here is 5 years ago, Mr. Lai is 7 times older than the daughter. Right, so if you don't quite understand this, you can actually think of it as give it a numerical value. Supposing your father 5 years ago it's 35 and you are 5 years old. So how many times it's your father as old as you? Yes, 7. So to equal these two numbers, I need to take 5 times 7. I need to take your age times 7, right? So that I can get 35 equals to 35. So this is what exactly I'm going to do. I'm going to take the daughter's age, which is x minus 5, to multiply with the number 7. Right. This is the same as this. Which is the same as 7 bracket x minus 5. And that explains how I have obtained that term there. All right. So the next step is I'm going to apply distributive law to this factor here. So that will be 7 times x. 7s, if you have watched my earlier video, 7 means plus 7, right? So it's 7 times x, then plus 7 times negative 5. All right, so that will give you, that simplify further. That will give you 4x minus 5 equals to 7x minus 35. We're going to group all your x terms together, right? So to bring your 7x to the other side, 7x means positive 7. So we're going to find the 0 term. So we need to negative minus 7x on both sides. So that 7x minus 7x gives you 0. And the other side will become 4x minus 3x. That gives you negative 3x. So we would end up having negative 3x minus 5 equals negative 35. And to get rid of this one, we have to add 5. So in the end, what do we get? In the end, we actually have 4x minus 7x equals to negative 35 plus 5. And that gives us negative 3x equals to negative 30. And negative 3x means negative 3 times x. So to find 1x, what do? Yes, we divide by negative 3 on both sides. So we end up getting negative 30 divided by negative 3, that gives you 10. Right. So to find Mr. Lai's age 5 years ago, we need to substitute x equals to 10 into here. And so Mr. Lai is 35 years old 5 years ago. Let's look at question 5. So for question 5, we're asked to expand and simplify each of the following. Part A, 4 minus bracket x minus 3. And part B, bracket 4 plus 3y minus bracket x minus 3y. In algebraic manipulation, please pay a lot of respect to brackets, because bracket means a lot, a whole lot, a different answer from something that's without brackets. For example, if I have 4 minus 1 minus 3, what do you think is the answer? 4 minus 1 minus 3 will basically give you 0, right? But if I were to introduce a bracket to 1 minus 3, and then you see that, yes, the answer will be very different, because in terms of mathematics, right, we have to work out the one in bracket first. That's this BODMAS rule. So 1 minus 3 will give you negative 2, and this will give you 4 plus 2 give you 6, right? So therefore, to accurately solve these two questions, okay, I have introduced a number 1. So there are basically two terms here. So I'm going to introduce a 1 in front of the x minus 3, in front of the bracket x minus 3, to make you understand. Right, so this one here, we can apply the distributive law. So that gives you 4 minus 1 times x, then go back to minus 1 again times negative 3. So that gives you 4 minus 3 plus 3, because this negative 1 times negative 3 will gives you positive 3. And 4, we can rearrange them to get 4 plus 3 minus x. That gives you 7 minus x. All right, we're going to use the same kind of techniques in part B by introducing a number 1 here. And then likewise, you apply the distributive law to expand negative 1 bracket x minus 3y. So we will get 4 plus 3y minus x plus 3y. This one will give us a positive. And we would have 4 minus x plus 3y plus 3y. That gives you 4 minus x plus 7y. Sorry. So we will have 4 plus 3y plus 3y minus x. That gives you 4 plus 6y minus x, because 3y plus 3y gives you 6y. Right, let's look at question 6. So for question 6, we are asked to subtract t minus 3v from the sum of 7t minus 2u minus 3v and 3t plus 5u minus 8v. So what we're going to do is we're going to break down this problem sums into a few steps. So the first one is to find the sum of these two expressions. So 7t minus 2u minus 3v plus 3t plus 5u minus 8v, that will give us 10t plus 3u minus 11v. And then the next step is we're going to use this to subtract t minus 3v. And to do that, it's important that we bracket the t minus 3v. If you do not, I'm going to show you that your answer will be incorrect if you do not bracket it. If this is what you have been doing, the answer that you would obtain, it's 9t plus 3u minus 14v. And let's see if that is the correct answer. Right. This is the wrong answer. Okay, because when you introduce a bracket to t minus 3v, the negative 1 times the negative 3v will give you a positive 3v. And negative 11v plus 3v will give you negative 8v. You're having 3v minus 11v, a smaller number take away a bigger number, so that ends up getting a negative 8v. Right. So that this question explains the very importance of introducing brackets to more than one term. Anytime you see more than one term, just introduce a bracket to it. Right, let's look at factorization. So factorization is the opposite of expansion. For expansion, we basically remove the bracket. So for factorization, we actually introduce bracket by taking out common terms. So for example, in 7a, 12x minus 12xy, we can write it as 12x minus 12 times x times y. And you see that your 12x is actually a common factor here, where you can just take it out and introduce a bracket. And to check if your answer is correct, you can always use distributive law to check for the answer. So that will give us 12x bracket 1 plus 12x bracket negative y. So they give us 12x, and then plus times negative gives you negative 12xy, which is the question. So therefore, your factorization is done correctly. Let's look at 7b. So for 7b, we can write it as negative 2 times 2 times x, negative 2 times 3 times x times y. So therefore, the common factor is negative 2x. Right. So negative 2x bracket 2 plus 3y. Let's look at part C. Right. So for part C, I actually rearrange it by writing 4y first. So 4y can be expressed as 2 bracket 2y, and 2x can be written as 2 times 2 bracket x, and of course 10 is 2 times 5. So from there we can see clearly that the common factor is the number 2 here. Right, so that's the answer. Right, so we have gone through the practice on introductions to algebra. So the next 2 slides, there are some practice questions that you can test yourself. Right, these are the questions that are very similar to the questions we have done earlier. So do try to do it on your own. And then the last slides will show you the answer to all these questions. And if you don't get the questions, all right, look at the slides that we have done earlier and try to identify the mistakes that you have made. Right, these are the answers to the practice questions. So happy learning.